Welcome to Middle School Madness, a podcast about teaching and things that are interesting to teachers. My name is Oliver Wieheog, and I am a 26-year veteran of the middle school classroom. Today we are going to talk about rubrics, why they are so awesome, how to construct the perfect rubric, and honestly, should all rubrics really be in the metric system of groups of 10? I love a good rubric, and you can use them for all kinds of things. English papers, artwork, photographs, and yes, even puppets. But the moment I knew that rubrics were really good was during one of my summers when I went to a teachers conference for the arts educators in Pennsylvania. They had a governor's school for arts educators in Pennsylvania. And on this particular day, after working with a group, they said, we're going to go to Prescott, which is a beach. They handed us a piece of paper. And they said, go build this sandcastle or this display. And so because we were arts educators, we are very outgoing, very loud, very creative. We looked at the piece of paper in front of us and we went and created what they had asked for because teachers were very good. After an hour of making it, we really liked what we had created. They said, all right, they brought us in together. They said each group was given a section of the rubric, either the A section, B section, C section, the D and the F. And now we are going to go start and look at the D sandcastle. And you went and looked at this sandcastle. It was horrible. It literally looked like they had just put sand on a beach, piled it up, threw some shells on it, and you weren't really sure what was going on. And then you went to the C version, and there was a little more structure, a little more shape, the things that they put on it. Ours looked even better in the B category. But then you got to the A. And this sandcastle structure looked incredible. Why? Because they had the definition of everything that they were looking for in that sandcastle. And the difference between the A sandcastle and the F sandcastle was phenomenal. I mean, you could see it right away. And this really struck a chord because then it was like, I get it. If you create a really good rubric, it is only going to help you out. It is only going to make you as a teacher stronger. It is only going to make your students better. And this, of course, creates a nice environment for your classroom. That is why you got to use a rubric, and you can use them from big to small projects. But how do you create that rubric? Well, before you even put pen to paper, inside your head, you've got to envision what is this final project. Now, two things. Is it an English paper? What do you want in that English paper? If it's a puppet, because in my class, we literally made puppets for years. What do you want it to look like? And then you think about this. What is an A paper going to look like? What is an A puppet going to look like? And you start at the end. What is clean writing? And you write these all down, okay? And my suggestion is always to do the project yourself. If you've got to make a puppet and grade it, make a puppet and grade it. If you've got to write a paper, write the paper and then grade it. But you've got to literally create whatever it is you want, so then you as the teacher have experience in doing this. And of course, as your years goes on, you don't have to do this every year, but this is very, very helpful because you can look at the finished project and you can break it down into its categories. And then you can ask your students to achieve an A in each of those categories. And you do this by envisioning, by creating, and this will help you. Now, after you have done this, now comes the rubric construction. Some basics of rubric construction from this guy. Number one page is all you need. If your rubric goes over one page, you're trying to grade too much. I would always go with the KISS principle. Keep it simple. You don't need a lot. What is most important? What are you really trying to teach? What do you want those students to learn? And you put those categories in there. And that's it. That is it, right? One might say if spelling is not a big deal, then maybe you leave spelling out of this one. If you want your students to have lots of multiple big bright colors in your puppet, that's a category you want to include. Next, I like the metric system. I really do like the metric. The metric system is fun. One day it would be nice to literally be on the metric system. In all my rubrics, especially for the big projects, I like to go 0 to 10. And this is a funny rubric thing to me inside my mind. 0 starts on the left, a number scale goes to the right. Thus, the first column you'll see will always be your column where you didn't do it correctly, and the column for 10 out of 10 is always the A's. Of course, though, if you do letters, we all know that the letter A starts on the left, and then you go B, C, D, and then F. It goes the opposite direction. I like numbers. Numbers work really well. One page, always go groups of 10. That's perfect. Then, you want to take your categories for whatever it is you're doing. Let's say you are building a puppet. We're going to keep going with this one for today. In the puppet, one of my categories is going to be eyes. But I also now want to define that category. What kind of eyes? Well, I want expressive 3-color Disney eyes with eyebrows. That's the category. In this category, that is how you are going to be defined. Perfect. The second category could also be, does your puppet look like the intended character, as in their body, their eyebrows, their mouth, their expression? And you create all of these categories, whatever it is you need. Spelling, paragraphs, so forth and so on. Once you have defined all the categories, and these should all just be on one, then you've got to go and break down everything in the rows that go across. So you've got your first column of your categories. We're now going to come up with the definition for how these will be graded. If you want big 3-color Disney eyes with expressive eyebrows, what does a 5 out of 10 look like? Well, 5 out of 10 would be small and no expressions. If you just have a circle with a circle, clearly that is not 3 colors. That would be the F. One of the things I like to do, but I didn't do in this category, is sometimes have a little fun with your failure categories. And all honestly, no one wants to get it, but you can put things in there. If you're going for 3-color Disney eyes and they didn't do it, you might be like, oh no, were you sleeping while I talked about this in class? The eyes don't have anything. As if like, come on, I guided you so much. And it is nice to throw in a little bit of humor in there, but if humor is not your thing, then just say what that F category looks like. Then I like to go and write, what does the A category look like? Well, if we're going for big 3-color Disney eyes, the A category literally reads, big 3-color expressive Disney eyes with expressive eyebrows. So that student now may or may not have the greatest talent out there, but they know if they use 3 colors, they can do it. If they even Google Disney eyes, and they can come up with eyebrows that are more than just a straight line, depending on the personality of the character. This is what they can do. This is what 7th graders can do, high schoolers can do. And then once you have the F definition created and the A definition created, then you can go and figure out how you're going to delineate all the way down, which is perfect. This is really, really good. So now you've broken down the grade. You literally have the 10s on the one side and then the failures on the other. What you do with your rubric after you have created it, before you start the project, share it with your students. They need to know what the expectations are. Here we are. We are going to do this. These are all the categories. The categories are not only defined for you, but we also have the A category, the B category, the C, all the way down. And what's cool about this is your rubric, you can then divide it up as you create these categories 2 ways. There's always the quantitative way, numbers. If we are doing something with editing and I want to see that you have 10 cuts in your timeline, I can easily put in 10 cuts, right? If you are doing spelling, you could do the same thing, right? The A category would be 10 out of 10. There are 0 misspelled words and or typos. Typos are a misspelling. And then you could go the B category, it might be 1 to 3 misspelled words and typos, and then the C category could be 4 to 6, so forth and so on. So you can do this all quantitatively with numbers. If you're in a subject like me, a lot of what I just described was qualitative. It is descriptive and subjective, so whoever is creating it knows what to look for. And this way you can write down small eyes with no expression, and when they bring their puppet in and you look at it, that is what you're going to get. So you've got the quantitative and the qualitative. Once you have your rubric, you've given it to your students, they can now begin to go through the project, and as you get questions, you can always refer to the rubric, which is great. But one of the best things you can do with a rubric is you get them to do peer evaluations or self-evaluations. You hand it to them and you say, all right, very good. Here we have somebody else's project. I would like you to read it and grade it using this rubric. What do you come up with? This is fantastic. Students like this. You can see their brains growing. And it also puts them into that category of they get to be the teacher. Nice. And then once they've turned in the project, you then can grade a little faster because you know exactly what it is you're looking for, and you can go and just circle the categories, total up the points, and put them at the bottom. When you're done and you hand it back, if they have any questions, you've got it right there in front of you. Hey, Mr. Weir, I don't really understand how I got this grade on the puppet. I thought I did it. And then you pull out the rubric and you pull out the puppet and you put those two together and you're like, aha, now here's what I'm thinking. And this also gives you as a teacher the great opportunity to be like, you know what? I didn't grade it correctly. I think it should have been higher, or I didn't grade it correctly. It should have been lower. Why don't we just keep the grade that you have? You can even take a rubric sometimes, like I did in today's class, put it up, say we are going to grade you on how well you frame a shot using the rule of thirds. Here's the A version all the way down to the 0.5 version. End of class, when we put this up there, you've got to grade yourself. It works really, really, really well. And what's great about a rubric, especially when you teach multiple classes, if you realize that a category is not working or something is not going well or you didn't write it correctly, this is where what you do is in your lesson plans is you write down next year and then you begin to change your document. If I taught puppets, say, for 20 years, I probably changed my rubric every single year to figure out how I wanted it. And what I noticed was as the rubric got better, so was the project in class. Whatever they turned in, the quality was higher and higher because I was able to say very clearly, here's what I wanted. Students were able to attain it for their grade level, and the rubric was the force that was driving them. But this only really happened because over years, constantly polished that rubric until I had a really good rubric. I would love to know how other people use rubrics in their class. I would love for you to hit that subscribe button, become the first subscriber. Also, if you would like to come on the show, get another voice on here besides mine, send me an email if you would like to talk to me about teaching and things that are interesting to teachers. Well, there you go. That is the sound of the bell. It is time to punch out, wash up, and leave the greatest playground in all of the world, your classroom. I am so glad you have decided to become a teacher. I am so glad that you are going to use rubrics in your class because the world needs good teachers. Thank you for listening, and we will see you in the hallway.